Now, we've missed your bio, Siri. I won't do it again, but Siri is our wonderful president. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Siri. Your co-host, Siri, so you can share your slides.
Thank you very much, Steve and Elena, for inviting me to join you today as your guest speaker in Connect, Inspire, Share. I'm so excited to be able to present to everyone. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and to those also who are listening online afterwards. Welcome. It's a privilege to represent all, and it's been so enriching to do so. So today, as Steve said, I'll be talking about making the most of your all membership and encouraging discussion around that. I'm also really interested in your ideas and your responses going forward, and what you can offer all as well, and what other initiatives all might pursue. So all, as we know, is a professional association dedicated to supporting and representing all educators in Australia and others with an active interest in the field. One of our key aims is to provide members with opportunities to extend their professional networks and enhance their practice. So Connect, Inspire, Share is a really great example of this. Next one. Now, sorry, 1 second, my screen is not responding. Gotcha. There we are. Steve, do you see a bit of the Zoom screen in the corner of my screen? Sorry about that.
No.
Over a bit.
I can just see the main slide.
It's the next slide. It's all good, yeah.
It's all good.
Good. Excellent. So in today's short presentation, I'll keep it brief, we're going to be looking at 5 ways to develop our practice. 5 ways to make the most of your all membership. First of all, by taking advantage of the various ways that all has to develop your practice, publishing in JOL, engaging collaborative research, networking as we're doing today, and building a professional profile. So we'll begin with a brief look at each of those in turn, and then have time for discussion and reporting back and workshopping the ideas.
Can I ask people to mute themselves while Siri is presenting, please, just so we don't get echo through the system? Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. So one way of developing our practice as members of all is through today's event and other events that Steve and Elena have been running, and they've been a rich series of events. One of the things that you can do is look back on the Connect, Inspire, Share catalog on the all website, and you'll see that they've run a range of events ranging from authentic online learning to student well-being and resilience, all the way through to looking at assessments, connecting with others, multiple ways of knowing and communicating effectively. So there's a great record of all of the events up on the all website, including video recordings. So thanks to Gail Heinrich and Leslie Cicerelli for doing all of the work behind the scenes on the website and on the social media to make those things available as well, and our slides as well. This series of events links very closely to all mission and aims, and to surveys last year at the AGM, where members overwhelmingly said they were interested in more opportunities for professional development. And hopefully you'll be inspired to also contribute to these events. Another series of events that colleagues are running, colleagues in also Rosemary Fonseca and Leanna Thornton are running, is all around developing a practice by meeting the author of various JOL articles. So this has also proven to be a very popular series of events. The 3rd event in this series is running this Friday, and I'd encourage you to come along to that. It features Rachel Barber talking about her JOL article, The Impact of Diversification of All Services on practices of all advisors. So that sounds like it's going to be really exciting. Thank you very much, Rosemary and Leanna, for making those available to us. And you all would have heard about this year's conference, which is happening in November. So thanks to our representatives, Raelka and Andrew and Nicola Rolls up in the Northern Territory. We would have loved to be able to join you up there in person, but the next best thing is this online conference that you're going to be running for us. So that's fantastic. With the theme of diversity, distance, and digitalization, inclusive and supportive practices in all, it's going to be a rich opportunity for all of us to develop our practice. So the early bird closes on the 15th of September. So please get on with your registration if you haven't yet registered. And late breaking news, I'm very happy to share this. There's a number of scholarships that are available that will pay full fees for anybody who's really struggling to attend the ALL and to get funding to attend the ALL conference otherwise. So the scholarship deadline has been extended to by 1 week to next Monday, 6th of September. So if you have been thinking of going to the conference, but you're really stuck for funds to do so, please take a look at the conference website. Another opportunity to develop your practice is by publishing in JOL. So this is a really important way of making the most of our membership. Thanks to David Rowland, the journal editor, and to the editorial team, a number of other members are also making sure that there's opportunities for feedback on journal articles that we submit. Why not you this year? We'd love to hear your ideas reported in the journal. David has asked me to also let you know that often with the journal articles, he needs to help authors improve their data presentation or statistical analyses. And he's really happy to provide you with advice during the research process if needed, if you don't have access to somebody in your team or in your university to help you with statistical matters. So thank you, David, for that. A third way of making the most of your membership through ALL is through collaborative research. And there's been a call for grants. These grants are headed up by Sally Ashton Hay, our Vice President, and the grants are open until the 17th of September. So if you have ideas and you're thinking maybe eventually of publishing or presenting, for example, at the conference, and you really want to do some important research that links to the aims and missions of ALL, I encourage you to think about applying for those grants. So the research and resource development grants are up there, available, as I said, until the 17th of September. And because it's a conference year, we also have John Grierson grants available. And that you can also use if you're a new member to support your funds at the conference. They're competitive grants, but there's a whole heap of extra resources up there to help you to make the best submission and really pitch your case. So thank you for that. And I'd also like to mention that there's a number of other networking opportunities through ALL. So there's chances to network with your other ALL members locally. We have state and territory representatives. So we have 2 for each state and territory, 1 for Tasmania at the moment. And all the representatives are really interested in knowing what you'd like to happen locally as well. It's a good time actually to contact your state representatives and other members in your state and think about maybe putting together grant applications together. We do have event grants also available, and that's really great, especially when we're able to get together face to face. So thanks to state and territory representatives for fulfilling those roles, really important ones. We also, state and territory representatives usually also have a dual role, or sometimes 1 or more dual roles on the national executive. So there's a number of national leadership roles, And I'd encourage you to take a look at the information that's up about the All Executive on the website, because there's a whole range of people like you and me and others working behind the scenes to volunteer to help make opportunities available to our colleagues. There's also an All Facebook page, so thanks to Leslie for managing that. And with the Facebook page, you have an opportunity to chat with others anytime. Lots of people use it for posting other events, what's happening elsewhere, or posting job opportunities. So that's really great. Please consider these different roles with something that I'm going to mention in a minute. We also have a number of international connections. So thanks to former executives over the years who've really helped to build our international relationships. We're part of the International Consortium for Academic Language and Learning Developers with Scott Held, Atlance, LSAC, and LDNHE, so across from the UK, Canada, New Zealand, Scotland, and Australia. And over the last year, we've had 5 events as part of an international symposium over time, and we hope to do more of that in the future. All members presented something on the All database, and thanks to Alex, Sally, and Amanda for that. So we also enjoy reciprocal benefits, and that means that if our partner associations are offering discounts or discounted membership events for their members, we're able to enjoy those, and they're able to enjoy ours as well. So take a look at the information on iCal. Through All, I think you can see that there are many ways to develop your practice, to enrich what you can offer as an All professional, and to help you build a professional profile. So the more you become in the association, the more you can help build your professional profile through All. We're just about to head into All elections. So this is a bit of a pitch. If you always wanted to get more involved in All, maybe you're thinking of becoming a state or territory representative, you'd like to be nominated or to nominate somebody you know who would be great for that, we are going to be sending out information to members tomorrow to begin the call for elections for beginning in November this year and heading up for 2 years. So it's a 2-year term, volunteer roles. So thank you to Amelia, Alex, and Shirley who are assisting with the call for elections. I hope that these ideas, it's really just a quick overview of many of the main things that we're working on at the moment, but I hope that these ideas have assisted you in thinking of strategies you can use to make the most of your All membership. We'd love to know what you think. So I'm going to hand back in a second to Steve and Elena for the workshop portion of today's events, but I did want to make a couple of quick announcements first. One is that we are continuing our discounts for memberships. So if you know somebody who'd like to become a member or your renewals are coming up, the membership discounts are still in place and will be for at least another 6 months, and then with possible further extension at that time. Another announcement is that there's a new section on our website on the history. Take a look at that and about the scholarships for the conference. Please do feel free to.
Okay. I'm not sure if it was my internet connection, Siri, or yours, but it went quite unstable. Was it me or you?
Maybe it's you.
I think
Steve.
it might be me. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, the sound breaks. We hear kind of every second word what you say.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Elena, if you want to lead people to the breakout rooms, are you hearing me okay now, or am I breaking up?
No, you're fine now.
You're fine now.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank God. All right. The challenges of Zoom. Okay, so the next, thanks Siri. I just thank you for that, for bringing forward or to the discussion what some of the things that all are doing and offering. The next part of this, we're going to send you to the breakout rooms, and we're going to get you to actually workshop those questions that Siri put to you. I've put them in chat, and I will put them in again once you enter the breakout room so you can all see them. But we want to spend a little bit of extra time having a think about those 3 questions. So they are what ideas and opportunities that Siri has just talked about that you as a group, you think you could engage with further, or that all members could contribute to further. As an example, it might be supplying more Connect, Inspire, Share speakers to Eleanor and I, or it might be volunteering to join Eleanor and I in facilitating and organizing these sessions. Is an idea. What else do you think all can do? So Siri's presented some ideas. What other ideas do you think there are, or that all could do? And again, just so I can show you how these examples started, this session started as an idea that Eleanor and I had. So, you know, this is just an idea we had, and we took it to the executive, and they said, yeah, great, go for it. And similarly, Rosemary and Liana thought of the Meet the Author, and they were sort of member-inspired ideas. So it's just to sort of make the point that these can come from pretty much anybody, and we'd love you to be able to do that. What other initiatives therefore might we operate or might we pursue? And it doesn't have to be us, it can be you. And to segue there is, what other things can you do as members for all? How can you contribute? Okay, now we're going to put a bit of responsibility onto you here, because we're going to get you to report after we come back. So if you could get maybe 1 or 2 people ready to summarize the ideas, and we're recording this, so we'll be able to collate them and then maybe take them back to executive and see if we can action some of these ideas. Okay, so again, there's 3 or 4 questions that Siri has put to the groups. If we can go into our groups and workshop these, don't run away, people. I'm seeing our numbers dropping from 34 back down to 26. Stay here, please. This is what the, you know, a key part of this is for you guys to start workshopping these ideas. So I've created the rooms. I'm going to post the questions back into chat. So we'll give you like a 5-minute warning when we want you to come back, but come back ready to report, please. Siri, have I missed anything in my...
How much time have we got all together for this?
It's 3:50, so we'll call you back at around 4:15 or 4:20 and give each room like 4 or 5 minutes to present. When I say present, just give us a summary. Okay? Okay, we'll give you a yell when we're ready to bring you back. Okay, off you go. Bernadine, do you have a room?
Have you got the invite?
She should have. Bernadine.
Bernadine, can you hear us? Is it possible, Steve, to resend or
Sure. Yeah, she's got a room allocated though, so
Oh, that's okay. That's fine.
maybe she's just gone away to make a coffee or something.
Yeah,
Bernadine,
maybe.
are you there? Okay. I don't know.
That's okay.
You don't know what's happening in their own world, so.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. How are you, Steve? How have you been?
Oh, not bad. You know, it's we've moved from Guido to a new manager, which I think I might have told you about.
No.
Oh, I thought I had. Oh, beg your pardon. Oh, gee, it's hard to remember who I've told and who I haven't. Okay. So, oh, gee, I'll just stop recording. Okay, recording now.
All right. So what are we going to do now? We would ask one representative from each group to report back, and obviously other group members are more than welcome to contribute, to add, to extend. So that's obviously would be much appreciated. So probably we'll start with group one. Steve, if you could please remind who were in group one.
Sure. Amelia, Anna, Avril, David, and Leslie.
Yeah, okay, so I took some notes. So some of the ideas that came out of it was maybe in the off conference year, we could maybe have a smaller conference because it's really big to organise a 3-day thing. So it could be a 1-day thing. Other ideas were, rather than having 3 concentrated days, full days for a conference, particularly if it's an online sort of conference, that something I could do is 2 or 3 hours per day spread over several days, or maybe even, a few weeks or something like that. So that might be something for alternative, formats to think going through. There was general appreciation for all these, online professional development sorts of things and how great they are. And the question is, could we perhaps expand it and spread the workload around or ideas around? So one idea was that maybe we could ask each state to offer an event across the year, so talk about different opportunities. One of the things that people sort of said there's a number of things about professional development we need. So one was about achieving voice, getting heard, the whole trouble of being invisible to upper management and staff and students and all that. So if people have got, great ideas or very successful ideas of promoting and getting known by both staff and students, because at UQ, a lot of staff and a lot of students don't know we exist. I mean, a couple of years ago, I went to something where they'd paid, megabucks from someone to bring someone over from the US to give a thing. And I said, us learning advisors could have done that and probably done it better. Anyway, so yeah, that sort of thing. Another idea of professional development that we thought was useful was, because a number of us sort of say we're very small staff at very big universities. So the question is, how do we get most bang for our FTE equivalent? With limited staff, what might be the best way to maximise your impact? And then there was a whole question of, well, how do you measure impact as well? Digital learning. So one of the things that came up was that people sort of said, well, they see things at conferences and go, oh, that's really great. But yeah, how do you actually use the tool? Where do I learn that? So there could be a useful for either a session, which is question and answer, like a webinar where people sort of maybe take people through software for developing digital tools that could be useful, or maybe, like the stuff that you find on YouTube where people show you, then maybe because all's got a YouTube channel, maybe people could, record, or if people got little fact sheets. So I mentioned that, a lot of the software, when we learn things, I document it and pass it on to team members. Even today, someone said, oh, how do you do X? And I said, oh, yeah, I've got a sheet where I've got screenshots and step-by-step, how to do it, pass it on. But with the digital, the other question was, what's best practice and what's the pedagogically, it's not just, oh, we've got a tool, we'll use it, but are students actually learning from that? And do people have measurements of what types of, digital tools or approaches are actually effective in improving student learning. One last idea was that came out of something that someone, Anna, went to, was maybe have a series of 5-minute showcases as one of the things where, you know, different people who've done something fantastic could be, you know, do a quick little 5-minute showcase and then perhaps have a discussion session after that. So I think that was all we discussed.
I love that 5-minute showcase idea. I think that's fantastic. That's a really good one. In fact, that could be one of our CIS sessions. Sorry, Eleanor.
I also really like the idea experience sharing. So once someone has developed something, you know, not just, you know, to share, but actually to walk through the whole process, how to use, how to do. That's really, you know, great experience sharing idea. Thank you so much. Thank you, David, and thank you to Group 1.
Perhaps we'll go through each group and then we can throw it open for some discussion, because like it'd be really good to discuss some things like how various academic skills units or teams do advertise or do get around. Maybe we can share some ideas if we have some time at the end, which it's looking like we will. So that could be good. Room 2 was thanks, David. Room 2 was Lynn, Mariel, Siri, and Stacey.
I caved first with who was going to scribe and who was going to summarise, which is no reflection on Siri, Lynn or Muriel, because the discussion was rich and useful. The main thing is that we came away with was just a real longing for that interaction and partnerships, and we were talking about it at a cross-institutional level in terms of cross-institutional research. We all tend to do research within our own institutions, cross-institutional partnerships. Lynn had a really good experience using LinkedIn groups, which meant that she linked with the United States group and did some research and conference delivery with them. We talked, linking to what David was saying, about things related not only to the theory of what we're doing, but also the practice and the platforms that we were using. So we had a discussion around what platforms we're using to book students in for one-to-ones, and is that the same for workshops, and is that all that it does? What else does your platform do, which would tie into how you're promoting? So we thought even an idea of just what platforms are you using for the processes of your work, what protocols are you using, things like that. And we thought that that might develop themes that grow into ongoing conversations, and then that linked on to an idea of the special interest groups on the website. And then we sort of said, well, what's the best platform for the special interest groups to have a presence and collaborate? We mentioned sort of having reminders, and this is where this has been really good, rather than be every 2 years that I sort of link into the all space. It's lovely to have more regular opportunities to interact, but also reminders that on the all website you can do this. Have you looked at this recently? So little nudge messages, I guess. We also mentioned between us, we probably have a really diverse range of skill sets, both in theory and application, and we possibly all have strengths in our skill set and areas that we'd like to develop. So some sort of mentoring or coaching system between us. So if someone's brilliant at some learning platform or technology, and someone else is great, as David said, with his decoding statistics for your research, if there's that sort of reciprocal sharing or mentoring opportunity. Because we're as a group, my experience has been we're very good at hiding our light under a bushel. My group 2, please add in if I skipped anything.
Thanks, Stacey. Sometimes the bushel is quite large, unfortunately. Can't help but being hidden.
I think that was the other thing that we said, is anything that we decide to do, I think we're all in teams that have decreased in size, but our workload hasn't, that there has to be that efficiency, opportunity and efficiency for us to get that collective strength.
Agreed. And I don't think there'd be a single academic skills team in the country that hasn't been affected by COVID restructuring. Yeah. Thanks, Stacey. That's great. Some, again, really good ideas. I like the when you talked about the putting forward the platforms we're using to, you know, run our one-to-ones or advertise our workshops or put together hubs for students and put our resources up. I think that's a really, really good idea. I like that one. And perhaps, again, that could frame some of the discussion that we might have before 5 o'clock comes around. Okay, brilliant. Breakout room 3 was Emma, Joyce, Nicholas, Richard, and Sharon.
Right, and I'm the one who's going to give a bit of a feedback for our group, group 3. We started out by throwing around the idea of how to interact more effectively with students, given that a lot of us are working on Zoom or working from home and our students are either offshore or elsewhere. We didn't kind of come up with any responses for that, but that led on to this idea, which I think David brought up for group 1, this idea of having more informal PD sessions. Now that we're not in staff rooms and we're not sharing ideas over coffee at the lunch break and we're all sort of at home, well, a lot of us working, you know, remotely, maybe all might consider this idea of informal engagement away from the conference. Maybe every couple of months hold an informal small group PD session where we share exactly how we using the technology or particular you know, strategies that we've come up with to be more effective. So we were thinking of suggesting that you consider some sort of more informal engagement away from the conference. Then we brought up the topic of professional profile, which I think Siri mentioned in her initial presentation, and this idea of, is it worth building a profile, a professional profile of your work, and what would be the purpose of that, and to whom would you present that, and how long would it take? And one of the members who's actually had to leave early, Lynette Pretorius, was telling us about something she did through the Higher Education Academy, which I believe is based in the UK. And she took 8 months to put together a 50-page, you know, what could you call it, a whole sort of repertoire of her experience. And she recommended that, and it gives you a few letters that you can put after your name as well. So she spoke fairly, you know, at length about that. So that's something people could think about if they wanted to build up a professional profile or professional portfolio of their work. Then the final item we were speaking about is tracking students. How can we track students better post their course? You know, is there any, does anyone have any advice on tracking students and any ideas that can be shared? And that was about all we spoke about. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Richard. Anyone else from group 3 wanted to add, or Richard summed that up? Yeah,
thanks, Richard. I think that was a good summary. It was just that the tracking idea was related to evaluating our practice, you know, and talking about how we evaluate our practice more effectively, to show not just numbers of appointments or numbers of workshops, but you know, what difference do we make to the students that we work with, and that may be in terms of results, but also other experiences that they might, you know, or insights they may share, and that's something that we could really share across institutions as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because I mean, one of the things that constantly gets talked about within our context, I'm sure within all of yours as well, is this notion of impact. So that it's one thing to say we saw X number of students or we conducted X number of workshops, but it's what impact are those things having? And to that end, we've conducted what we called impact surveys, which attempted to do that. And they were pretty good. I mean, I'd be happy to share some of the results of those with you if people were interested, but it attempted to say, what have you engaged with? What has it meant to you? And how do you know? And it came up with some really interesting results. So interesting to hear you talk about that, Joyce and Richard, this notion of trying to measure impacts. I think it's something that is really salient for all academic skills areas, because you're always endeavoring to show value of what we do beyond the numbers. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks. Great. Thanks, Richard. And the last one was room 4, was James, Malini, Marta, and Rebecca.
So, hi, I'm an all newbie, so I got nominated to report back. A lot of what we talked about has already been mentioned by others, so I'll try not to repeat too much. But I guess there was 2 main themes that sort of emerged from our room. The first one around advocacy, and I think what Steve was just mentioning there about the tracking of impacts is something that we talked about being able to communicate the value of our services. Things like the fact that it's not just relevant for international students, but that all students benefit from the services. Hay mentioned just the fact that we have a stronger voice together by being able to communicate and track that impact. And one thing that she suggested was co-writing opportunities, whether that's across different universities or whether it's co-writing with academics, and just looking at ways, if there's opportunities for all to support in that, in order to communicate the value basically and advocate for the services. And then the second theme was around the sharing and connecting. And I think Richard and David have already talked about ways in which we could do that through communities of practice or special interest groups. So I have just joined all about a month ago. This is my very first meeting. I've moved from the English language teaching sector into more of a academic skills kind of role. So I just suggested that English Australia has a lot of these programs. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but the English Australia special interest groups around things like assessment and direct entry programs do meet frequently and have these kinds of really detailed discussions, getting down to the nitty-gritty. And that's what kind of Rebecca particularly and others were suggesting. And I think Richard mentioned that before. We're not in staff rooms, and being able to share those details of what we're doing day to day with each other is really great. And I think that post-COVID, it seems like there is a real appetite to share across institutions the details of what is working and what's not working. And so I guess some way for all to facilitate that, and sorry if I'm saying things which you're already doing because I don't know exactly what you are doing. But some of those special interest groups, Hay suggested around equitable learning as well, visually impaired, hearing impaired students, and discussing what's working for those students in particular. And other communities of practice. Marta mentioned that there's already a Landtight community of practice. Rebecca suggested a kind of a speed dating sort of breakout group session where you're presenting little snippets of what's working well within your university. I think that's all I had. Was there anything I missed, Rebecca? Or I'll put the link to the English Australia assessment, special interest groups in the chat if anyone's interested in that as well.
Thanks, James. That's really good. Brilliant. And as a couple of mentioned already, welcome, James, to this group. Well summarised. Good, good work for, as you call it, a newbie. So, I mean, just one thing I think, because we've got another 10, 15 minutes to talk about things. And I think one thing that came up, which I would like to put to the group, is this idea of how we are advertising and how we are getting beyond the bushel, how we are promoting ourselves. And I'd love to hear any ideas from other institutions about how you are getting yourselves out there, because I mean, we've all been in that one-to-one where the third year comes in and says, gee, I wish I knew about you guys. And they're in third year or in their last month of their PhD or something. One thing that we've found really successful is that our learning management system is Canvas, and we've made up a hub for the Melbourne University Academic Skills Hub, where we've put resources and things on it. And the good thing about Canvas is that for everyone who is a registered member of your Canvas group, and we have about 6,000 members, you can make announcements that go out as emails, so direct emails to the whole group. And what we've found for our in-semester open call workshops is that we've gone from having sort of fairly low attendance at those workshops of around teens to low 20s to now having attendances of around 70s, 60s, 80s for those workshops, because every Monday we do this email blast through the hub that says, hey, everybody, these are the academic skills sessions on this week. And we put the date, the time, the title. And they have proven to be boosting attendance at those workshops by, you know, a factor of 3 or 4. So that's one thing which I wanted to share with you. I'd love to hear from anyone else who's got ideas about how they've been doing similar things in their own institutions that we can all use. Emma.
Hi, thanks. So just as a quick update, so some of the things I've been doing recently at our place, because, you know, students have been online for, you know, 10 plus weeks in some of New South Wales. What we've been doing is I've initiated a collaborative sort of session that we're running twice a week with IT in the library. And because it's building, it's drawing from those 2 other service points as well, we're getting sort of more traction. It's getting out there, the word's getting out, it's getting promoted through all of their mechanisms as well as out through student comms. But we're doing them, we're called SOS, so Successful Online Study Sessions, and they're just these 1-hour sessions where each service does like 5 or 10 minutes on a particular topic with plenty of time for students to ask questions in the chat and to talk through. So, and it's just a vital connection point for students while they're learning remotely, because what I was finding was there was a trend in a lot of the consultations I was doing that students didn't even realize they could access the library from home. They just didn't, because if they're on-campus students, they just don't realize that those functionalities exist. So really simple things. So we're doing things like how to read better in the online environment, how to connect with other students in the online environment, how to access IT services, how to access the library and ALS in the online environment, just like really basic stuff, because when those on-campus students do their orientation, they don't have that knowledge of access points for studying remotely. And the other thing that we've been doing that's helping generate some business, because our workshops have taken a dive and we're trying to promote them, was I'm doing some drop-in sessions with program conveners. So like I work with some of the health faculties. So the program conveners have been setting up sessions for just like half an hour, an hour, where students can come along and ask questions. And last week we got some nursing students in their 2nd and 3rd year that didn't even realize we existed. And so we were able to say, okay, well, if you're out on placement, these are the ways you can access us remotely and around your timetable and things like that. So they've been really useful. And the positive feedback we're getting from students is it's just really nice. It's really hard to attend and commit to a workshop, but like a little drop-in session where they can pop in for 10 or 15 minutes and just get some quick info and speak to someone in real time to ask a question amongst everything else they're doing, you know, with kids running around and, you know, sharing devices between people in their home and things like that, they've been really good access points.
How do you advertise your SOS sessions, Emma?
We are fortunate that the student comms people picked them up, and what they did is they push them out into the student weekly emails called In the Know.
Yeah.
But they only get a certain uptake, like, or open rate from that. The other thing, what we've been doing is I spent a few hours the other week going around to all of the program and Blackboard sites that I'm enrolled in and putting in announcements for each one. It's very clunky, but that was the main thing, is we got them out through In the Know, and we've advertised them out through staff. But the library also have promoted them on their website, because we're tapping in, because they're teaching them with us collaboratively. They've been able to promote them through their networks as well, and they've got a sort of greater capacity to do so.
Great. That sounds fantastic. I really love that SOS idea. That's brilliant. The IT is really good. Thanks, Emma. Thanks for sharing. Anna.
It's more of a question. Do you get feedback from students saying, can you please stop all these weekly emails?
No.
Not a single time?
No.
No one has ever received
not to my knowledge, because we don't. It's a really good question, and I think we as a team are very cognizant of overloading on communications, because if you're doing it multiple times a week, you're right, it's just going to be water off a duck's back and they'll start to ignore. So we try to keep it one a week. This is it. This is happening, bang. And we do it only when is necessary.
Yeah, we do something very similar. We have, I'll just quickly share my screen if it's okay. So we basically have something very similar to what you've got, but we have a link in every single Moodle site at Monash.
Yep.
We have a link to the Academic Language Resources Bank. So when students can click on it, tutors can direct students to the Academic Language Resources Bank, and here you will find information about workshops and how to register, etc., etc. So I thought I would share that.
That's great.
This particular link actually made a very big difference.
Is that linked into every single subject?
I'm in the Faculty of Education. Yes, in the Faculty of Education.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, we have a bit of a problem. We've had it for 3 weeks now. As you can see, there is a study support block that was added just recently. This is to the central services. So we are in the process of organizing a potential rewarding to make sure there is no confusion between the faculty support and the central support. But it's Monash for you. It's a very big institution with a very confusing academic language support systems.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
I just thought I'll share that. Yeah.
Monash wouldn't be alone there, that's for sure. I've popped onto a lot of Canvas. So it looks like you're using Canvas as well.
Moodle.
Oh, Moodle, right? Okay. So I popped on a lot of Canvas sites of that academics have brought me into. And the information overload in most of them is just incredible. And, you know, like in the module section where they list their resources, some of them are sort of listed like 30 or 40 resources a week. And the students are just like, I can't get through all of this. This is actually not helping. So it's a real balancing act when we go into the subjects about how much you want to put in there and how much you want to say to the academics about how much they're putting in there. I guess it can be a delicate conversation, but that's something that was the experience I found. Anybody else got anything they wanted to add to the conversation? How about the other one that sort of popped out there, I thought, was the platforms for running sessions. One of the groups reported on this idea of maybe sharing what platforms you run for, like booking your one-to-ones or databases you use that seem to work well. Has anybody got something that, I mean, I'm loath to share the Unimeld one because I don't think it's that good. But are there any? Oh, this is on record. I shouldn't have said that. It's great. We love it. It's a really good database. I'll have to edit that out. Anybody want to share?
We use Career Hub at Newcastle. Is the current system we're booking it through for all our workshops, appointments, and e-consult services. It's much better than the previous system we used, but it's probably, there's always limitations. I think it's an ongoing problem about finding the ideal platform to use.
Yeah, especially for the one-to-ones. So David?
Yeah, UQ uses Career Hub for both workshops and one-to-one appointments, and is working reasonably well, although there is talk about replacing it with something else. I don't know why. I mean, from learning perspective, it seems to work quite well, but maybe some other sections, because we're in a central unit with disability support and international support and counselling, and some of them might not be happy with it, but yeah, it's working quite well for us.
Anna.
We use
sorry, Anna just had her hand up. Joyce, I'll come to you next.
I'll put my hand up.
I follow the rules. Sorry. I have a question. Like what you've just mentioned. Can you spell it for me, please? Career Hub. Is it called Career Hub?
Yep, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. I just think that for me personally, something like what we discussed in our group, like having a 1 hour session or even half an hour session on someone sharing their booking systems and then demonstrating it, and and then telling us how much it costs and how long it took to implement, it might actually help to then see if it's something that can become our system as well. So you can spend a bit more time on that, and then the following session we can do something similar. So like a particular purpose for a particular set of tools, and then discussion about advantages and disadvantages. That's what I would like to be part of. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Joyce.
Yes, thanks. I agree, Anna. I think that's what we discussed in our group too, so that real sharing of practice so that you can see what's going on. And these platforms and tools are really useful to know about and to see, to remember and to know how it works. You need a little bit of time to take that on board, I think. We use a thing called Time Trade for our appointments, and that operates with our CRM to record appointments. We use a thing called Sept for workshops. That's another application, and our workshops are advertised on the student portal where students can see the workshops and register, and the register button takes them to the Sept application, and we use that then to record who's actually attended, how many, and that can generate reports from Sept. So
thanks, Joyce.
Platforms.
Marta?
Thank you. So I agree with everyone. I'd love to have a bit more of a discussion about this, because we've just started trialing Microsoft Bookings for our individual consults, and there's a lot of teething problems with it, because it's not really a booking system that's tailor-made for us, but we've sort of been working around it. So I know that our careers service uses Career Hub, so that's something I hadn't thought to look into, because I didn't realize there was that sort of software. And Joyce, could you please put the service that you said that you use in the chat, because we also have the CRM. So if there's something that could integrate with the CRM, that's very exciting as well. So yeah, thank you very much. We also have a drop-in service, and for that we're using Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, which is integrated with our Canvas system, and that's working fine, but it wasn't working very well for individual consults, because we'd have to get a guest link every time and do everything manually. So the idea with us changing Microsoft Bookings was that part would be automated, because it would integrate with Teams. But yeah, now I've got some other options to have a look at. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Marta. We might have to make Stacey and Rebecca the last two, because we're just getting close to time. So Stacey.
I'm going to sound like a salesperson for Career Hub. We have that, but it's called Uni Hub. We use it for our one-to-ones workshops. It's really easy to run reports, and you can get lots of information about the students that we then run into an Excel dashboard that produces reports for us, what courses they're coming from, whether their English is an additional language, whether they're international, domestic, full-time, part-time, onshore, offshore. We can get all that information because UniHub runs into our CRM. It's also used, Careers uses it for advertising jobs to students, but we also use it for journaling. So all educators, you can lock it down to certain groups, but if career STEM educators and language and learning educators are supporting the same student, we can see what's happening. It's also great for saving documents, so students can access things after a workshop, so it's not locked behind a SharePoint where they've got to get access. And I'm currently working on workflow, so a lot of it will be automated, that students get information. So I'm a UniHub fan.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
interesting to know, because we have careers hub as well, which is just used by our careers team. And I didn't realise it could articulate with other areas. So that's a really good thing to know.
I think we're definitely showing cause for at least a workshop on this, or a presentation session on this. We'll organise something probably through this forum. This sounds like people are very interested in this. Rebecca.
Oh, this is all too little too late for me. I had a lot of angst about this in my previous role, so I'll just quickly share a little bit of what I've learned. So in my role here at UniSA, it's time trade and CRM. It works well in that it integrates with Outlook, and learning advisors can manage their days around their appointments, and the CRM integration just means the data collection is there and other support services can access the information, and that seems to work really well. My observation is that anybody who had an online booking system pre-COVID were very, very well positioned. Because if you didn't, as I didn't in my role at Adelaide University, it had to happen very quickly. We had to get those online processes happening very quickly. And we started using Calendly, and then sort of got locked into it, and it proved to be very convoluted and difficult, particularly with a casual learning advisor team. In that process, I did a lot of research on an American platform called WC Online. And I actually think that I was given that information from one of these groups, and it's an incredible platform in that it does a lot of things that we want it to do in our roles. So it automates emails to students. It'll block a student if they've been a no-show for a certain amount of time. Notes can be kept, etc. But it was very convoluted, and it's based in America. So there's all of that as well, where the platform is based will dictate how easy it is to get support, etc. So I did a lot of deep diving and didn't come to any solution, but happily, I don't need to worry about it now. But it's so pertinent and so relevant. So I think it'd be a great workshop, Steve.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hearing a lot of things, and not that I make the decisions in this space for these things, but I think I would like to change ours. It does the job, but it doesn't sound like it does it as well as some of yours do. Look, we've got one more question from Richard, and I'm going to throw this to Siri around, is there time to quickly, Siri, talk about how conference fees are determined? If you can just give us a little bit of information around that to finish up.
Yeah, sure. So conference fees are set by the organizers for the conference in any given year. So we run conferences every second year, and they're based on a number of things. Unfortunately, none of the current conference organizing team is in this session at the moment, so I'm afraid my comments will be general. I know that the current team looked a lot about what costs other people were charging for online conferences, and ended up going with much lower fees than would be required or used for when we run face-to-face conferences. A lot of the expenses just aren't there in terms of catering and rental of facilities, and those can be large conference costs for most conferences. So the conference costs are set at kind of a cost recovery level. Sometimes conferences draw a bit of a profit, and those profits are fed back into all. So this is one of the reasons from previous conferences that we now are able to offer, for example, 30 fully funded conference attendances, scholarships this time round from previous accumulation. So there is that sense of trying to support people who really are, unemployed at the moment or on casual work or whatever, by providing free registrations for some people who really need it. But I wasn't quite sure whether there's other questions behind that, Richard. Was there something in particular that you?
No, that was all. Thanks, Siri.
Yeah. So it is sort of a cost recovery basis. Profits, right, if they do occur, are fed back into the old group and are used to support different grants or future conferences or events and whatever. There are fees that are usually set for honorariums for keynote speakers, for at least some keynote speakers, and other costs behind the scenes in terms of staffing and technology and editing things if it's an online conference and so on. So more details would be available from any given conference organizer as to how they're managing that.
Thanks, Siri. It is exactly 5 o'clock and we are nothing else if not punctual. So we're going to end it here. Just want to say thank you very much to everybody for coming, particularly to our Presidente for giving us a wonderful little talk which facilitated our group discussion. My co-facilitator, Eleanor, who is doing a busy government role at the moment. So she's really going above and beyond to stay involved with this, which I think is very impressive. One of our other PD sessions is Meet the Author, as it was stated by Siri back in her presentation. The link is there. It's this Friday. We don't usually have them in the same week, but this is an unusual time. And there's an evaluation link there too if you'd like to evaluate the session. We'd love to hear from you. Our next session is to be determined because we've got the conference coming up in a couple of months. We may just sort of slide into that and then see how we go. But I think the next one will definitely be something around sharing our tech. That seems to be the thing that's really popped out of this. So thank you, everybody, and have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks
a lot.
Especially Steve and Yelena.
Thank you.
Thank you.